Hong Kong Island, 1971. A Boeing passenger plane headed for the Kowloon airport. When it swooped across the Kowloon walled city, it was less than 100 meters from the top of the building. The residents of the walled city seemed to be able to touch the sky with their hands up. This is a classic picture left by the Times. Zhuang Shikai picked up the .38 pistol on the table, loaded 6 bullets into the magazine in a row, and closed the magazine with a click with his backhand. This is his now. On August 15, 1945, the anti-French XS alliance was victorious. The Allied powers signed an unconditional surrender agreement, and the era of Japanese occupation on Hong Kong Island ended. The British government took over Hong Kong Island again in accordance with the Nanjing Treaty, and Hong Kong Island ushered in a major development stage. Although the hardships and guns on the coastline have disappeared, the smoke in the air has not yet dissipated. The rapid development of the social environment has caused chaos in the social order on Hong Kong Island. Societies dominate the market, government and business are linked together, gambling stalls, horse stalls, smoking halls, smuggling, collection of protection fees, black and white collusion, forming a huge dark money empire. This empire developed to its peak in the 1950s and 1970s, and the most famous figures were among the 4 inspectors. Among the 4 inspectors, the Chief Inspector Hua was the most famous. On May 14, 1971, the Prevention of Bribery Ordinance was promulgated. Anti-corruption departments were added to the police force. The greatest significance of their existence is to share more. Zhuang Shikai lifted his shirt and inserted a pistol into his waist belt, dripping with fine sweat on his neck. His expression was obviously a little nervous, and he was about to do something big. Cai Yuankai patted the guy beside him on the shoulder, pretending to be relaxed and preached, "Zhuangzi, don't be nervous. You played 6 in Temple Street the day before yesterday, so you were very prestigious." Zhuang Shikai showed a sneer, and explained a little helplessly, "Brother Qi, uniformed policemen don't rely on guns, but on sticks." He exhaled a long breath, his expression became more stretched. More than a dozen police officers in the gun room were holding guns, filling bullets, and doing the same actions as him. Everyone seemed nervous, but most people suppressed their emotions, causing the gun room to be filled with solemn murderous aura. Zhuang Shikai glanced at everyone with his gun, remembering everyone's appearance in his heart. Time goes back 2 months ago, when he was a Fat House student at a university in Guangdong province. After watching a movie one night, he went to Hong Kong Island in the 1970s when he woke up. His initial identity in this world was a uniformed policeman holding a wooden baton called a truncheon and was responsible for patrolling the street area. He just passed through and heard the legend of Lei Luo starting dozens of times within a few days, and then he was sure that he had penetrated into the world of movies. Next, with the help of a plug-in system, he caught the thief several times in just 2 months, showing his position and becoming a well-known uniformed police officer near Yau Ma Ti. The superpower watch on his wrist is his plug-in. Whenever a criminal appears or the superior orders an order, the corresponding task will be issued. Capture or kill the mission target, you will get a certain amount of experience. Experience points can increase the level, and each level up will get an attribute point. Attribute points can be added to a certain attribute through short practice, which greatly improves their physical fitness. Of course, the system has strict requirements on him. The trick of finding someone to commit the crime will not work. Only the arrest of the real criminal counts. As for whether or not the criminal was paid to buy people off afterwards, that's not his business. "Brother, have you found that everyone is from Chaozhou?" After Zhuang Shikai observed the surrounding situation, he heard many people communicate in private, and suddenly he said a Chaozhou dialect to Cai Yuankai next to him. He and Cai Yuankai were both in military uniforms of the Yau Ma Ti police station. They have a good relationship. They usually patrol, eat and smoke together. When he had just crossed, he often used Cai Yuankai's mouth to make idiots. Besides, Cai Yuankai is a few years older than him. He is a human being and takes good care of him at work. I saw Cai Yuankai pressing the handle of the gun with a calm expression, glanced at him and preached, "They are all Chaozhou brothers from various jurisdictions. This time, Luo Ji may have asked us to do this." Lei Luo is the pride of Chaozhou people. He became the 4 major inspectors on Hong Kong Island and is now promoted to become Chief Inspector of China. Usually they take great care of Chaozhou people, who are also known for their unity and loyalty. In addition, this is the central police station of Lei Luo's site. In fact, it is not difficult for everyone to guess who is behind the scenes. Of course, there are 1 generation, 2 generations of Chaozhou people, and even the 3rd generation whose ancestors immigrated during the Qing dynasty. However, the years within the 3 generations simply cannot erase the sense of identity from the same hometown. What's more, there are many factions in the Hong Kong Island Big Circle Gang, the Vietnam Gang, and the Fuking Gang. There is no way to survive without a group. This makes fellow villagers a natural bond of trust, and firmly binds a group of people into a community of interests. After Cai Yuankai finished speaking, he lowered his voice and asked in a low voice, "Brother Zi didn't tell you that after doing this, can we all transfer to plain clothes?" "I have said it." Zhuang Shikai pressed the gun and nodded, knowing that only Brother Luo could have such a big deal. Even now everyone is dressed in civilian clothes, armed with police guns, and is already a real plainclothes agent. The status of the uniformed police officers of the Chinese on Hong Kong Island is low. A wooden stick is standard police equipment. Only the Criminal Investigation Department established by the Chinese, also known as the Plainclothes Police, are eligible to be equipped with guns. In contrast, the ghosts, Indians, and other uniformed policemen have guns. However, Hong Kong Island is ultimately the Hong Kong Island of the Chinese. The Gilau police officers are only a deterrent force. If you want to manage Hong Kong Island, you must rely on the Chinese. So the Criminal Investigation Department became a low-powered violent authority. The plainclothes captain in each jurisdiction is known as the detective inspector. The largest sergeant is no more than the rank of sergeant, but he has the right to have jurisdiction over the black and white lines in a district and have the qualifications to have equal conversations with Superintendent Ghost. Is a little more realistic. With the gun in his hand, the plainclothes agent has twice as many accounts every month than the uniform group. UU reading www.uuganshu.com for ordinary uniformed police officers in the police circle. Being able to transfer from the uniform to the plainclothes team is already a promotion and fortune. Such an opportunity for promotion and fortune is in front of us, and no one is willing to give up. Zhuang Shikai has been integrated into this world. In order to protect himself, he has to struggle in the era and fight for destiny like everyone else. Anyway, it's here, there are plugins, don't get promoted to make a fortune, and live a chic and domineering life. Are you too sorry for fate? Just get a taste of the style of this era, and see what is called a money empire. The lard boy had a black briefcase under his arm, and walked to the room to clap his hands and said, "Brothers are here. Everyone is from Chaozhou. Brother Luo would like to ask everyone to help with a big thing. Ha ha ha, everyone knows this person. If you kill him tonight, Brother Luo will not treat you badly." Lard gave a photo to the police officers to circulate. Everyone who saw the photo had a sharp face. "Change," Lard explained with a simple expression, "you are all raw faces. You will do better for this thing. After you finish this thing, you will all be transferred to Luo Ge as plain clothes, and there is also a sum of money to take. I hope everyone can help Luo Ge." In this era of corruption, collusion between police and criminals has long been the rule. Each street has several gambling stalls, several smoking halls, how much money you pay for small stalls, and how much money you pay for the big ballroom. All are clearly marked and paid monthly. It's not the vendor who pays it to the tax bureau, but the door, and the police have to pay all the right things. The police all listen to Luo Ge. Luo Ge will not personally collect the bills, and the person who collects the bills on behalf of Luo Ge is the lard boy. He is Luo Ge's spokesperson, and his meaning is Luo Ge's meaning. Zhuang Shikai was the last one to read the photo. Based on the performance of the previous guys, he had already guessed who the target was. Ding! Mission release, kill Wu Xiao. Zhuang Shikai put down the photo, and a golden Rolex on his wrist flashed a reflection. It was not dazzling, but it flashed just right through his eyes. This is a wonderful effect every time the superpower watch releases a task. Zhuang Shikai can know the details of the task as long as he moves his mind. The team can get 300 experience for killing Wu Xiao, and 500 experience for killing Wu Xiao by hand. Now Zhuang Shikai's level is level 4. From level 1 to level 4, each level corresponds to an increase of 100 points of experience. If you want to reach level 5, you need 500 points of experience. If he could kill Wu Xiao himself in this task, he would be able to directly upgrade to a level and gain an attribute point. Lard's eyes swept across the plain clothes in front of him, his cheeks trembled and said, "In the evening, Xiao Wu has a birthday banquet at the Daifuhao restaurant. It is 7 o'clock and you can set off." "Yes, Brother Zhe." 20 Chaozhou police officers responded loudly. Zhuang Shikai mixed in the crowd and walked out of the gun room with the crowd. "Are we really going to kill Brother Hao?" 5 black cars were driving on the road, and a plainclothes police officer sat behind and asked in a loud voice. Another police officer looked disdainful, and raised his mouth to preach, "What Brother Hao?" When Luo brother praised him, he was called Brother Hao. If Luo brother didn't praise him, he was just a lame man. Cai Yuankai, who is in charge of driving, also intervened. "Everyone pay attention to safety at night. We are making Wu Xiao's birthday a day of death, not a day of death for himself." The atmosphere in the car suddenly became a bit heavy. After all, everyone was originally in military uniform. Although they performed well in their respective police stations and learned firearms during police training, they inevitably felt pressure to implement shooting operations. There is no way, the bullet has no eyes, and there are many horses around Wu Xiao. This thing is not easy to do beautifully, but Luo Ge sent a total of 20 plainclothes to do the job. As long as the action is agile, the opportunity should be great. Zhuang Shikai was holding a red invitation card in his hand, sitting in the co-pilot and flicked his fingers. Fortunately, today is not his birthday, otherwise it would be really unlucky for his birthday to become an anniversary of death. Big Rich is the most popular restaurant in Causeway Bay. It was opened by Wu Xiao 8 years ago. When it was built, it was on the 4th floor. The year before last, it was built with 2 floors. Now it is a 6-story tall building. There is an observation deck and wooden fence on the 6th floor. The big people can stand under the neon lights of the rich, smoke a cigar, and watch the busy traffic and feasting of Causeway Bay. 5 black cars stopped at an intersection in Causeway Bay. Zhuang Shikai and the others got off in one file and walked to the Daifuhao restaurant in the middle of the street. Wu Xiao's birthday banquet was naturally held in his own restaurant. A police officer surnamed Zhang was responsible for leading the operation. After he came to the door of the rich man, he handed the invitation card to the welcome guest in front of him. 1. Thank you. A guest, 12 tables on the 6th floor. The welcome guest dressed in tang suit shouted loudly. Police Constable Zhang took a few steps forward, and a Yukon Motsai wearing a black shirt stopped him and started a body search for him. "What is this?" The black horse found a pistol from his waist. Police officer Jiang's expression remained unchanged. "I'm a errand, it's normal to carry a gun." "Ah Wang, you help the police officer keep the gun." He Motsai took a look at him and handed the gun to a subordinate next to him. Police officer Zhang immediately reached for the gun and drew the trigger at the black Motsai's forehead. Boom! Go! Police officer Zhang yelled, and 20 plainclothes agents drew their guns at 3.8 and rushed into the rich man's restaurant. Zhuang Shikai followed everyone behind, cursing wildly in his heart, "Trash! Trash!" The gun-on was checked out, and it was entirely possible to find a way, such as temporarily handing over the pistol, letting everyone enter the restaurant one by one, and finally sending a few more people to grab the gun. Or even without a gun, Wu Xiao was directly beaten to death with his fist. Such an outrageous shooting is tantamount to the worst decision. However, since the matter has developed to the present, it is really only possible to initiate a brutal force killing. A group of police officers fired one after another, and after shooting down a few horses who came forward to stop them, they dashed all the way to the 6th floor, killing more than a dozen Yukon horses in the meantime. Born in this chaotic era, all the citizens of Hong Kong have long practiced the magical skills of getting down and drilling under the table. When the gunshots sounded, the guests and waiters in the restaurant had quickly got down and got under the table. Zhuang Shikai rushed to the 6th floor and saw Wu Xiao holding a cane, and with a ding sound, he lit a cigar in his mouth with a lighter, and Ying Shi Langgu looked down at them. Is different from the lower floors filled with guests. On the 10 round tables on the 6th floor, there is only a large group of horses dressed in black shirts and showing fierce colors. The horses opened their black shirts, revealing their white vests, and there was a black star pistol stuck in their waist. Ding! Wu Xiao covered the lighter, spit out a puff of smoke, and held up the crutches one step earlier. Did Lei Luo let you kill me? After Wu Xiao's initial silence, Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com burst into a huge roar. One world, two brothers. He wants you to kill me now. Cai Yuankai, Police Constable Zhang and others faced Wu Xiao's powerful aura with guns in their hands. They were still panicked, and they stood there without moving for a while. But no matter how Wu Xiao roared, Zhuang Shikai knew what to do now and took the lead in raising the police gun in his hand. Bang! Zhuang Shikai shot out a bullet, and immediately turned sideways and leaped to the back of a wooden screen. Kill them! Wu Xiao roared, and the gunmen in the court drew their guns together and quickly pulled the trigger. Boom! A rain of bullets swept across, and screams, roars, and fighting sounds suddenly sounded. Zhuang Shikai leaned his back against the screen, held the gun in both hands, quickly reached out his head, and quickly retracted. When he closed his head, he snapped, and the screen in front of his cheek had been cut by a bullet. Fortunately, the wooden screen is made of solid materials and is used to highlight the extravagance of the setting. At first glance, it is 7 or 8 meters long and more than 2 inches thick, and ordinary bullets cannot penetrate it temporarily. And in the just glance, he has quickly locked Wu Xiao's figure, knowing that Wu Xiao is under the protection of several horses, and quickly withdraws to an exit. Never let Wu Xiao go. Zhuang Shikai closed his eyes and started counting the time in his mind. After he finished counting 4 times, he shot the probe on the right side immediately. Boom! The picture seemed to freeze, a bullet passed through a figure, and finally passed through the gap between 2 bodyguards, hitting Wu Xiao's heart. This power struggle in the eyes of black and white is a simple fight against crime in Zhuang Shikai's eyes. He is a policeman. Let's kill first. Good marksmanship. Lei Luo standing on the roof of the building across the street, you can see most of the restaurant through the windows and viewing platform. When he saw Zhuang Shikai made a decisive shot and hit Wu Xiao with a single shot, he couldn't help tapping the ground with his stick, and once again praised, "Nice job." The lard boy accompanied him, still holding a briefcase under his armpit, and explained with a smile, "Brother Luo, his name is Zhuang Shikai. He used to be a military uniform in Yao Ma Ti. Is his marksmanship very prestigious?" "Hee, it's very prestigious. Let him go to the 2nd floor at the dinner party in the evening." Lei Luo smiled on his face and took out a box of cigars from his arms. He took out a stick and took 2 deep breaths in front of his nose, with an obsessive expression on his face. This kid is going to be developed. Lard looked at Lei Luo, knowing that Zhuang Shikai had entered Luo Ji's eyes. "Brother Hao is dead. Brother Hao is dead." The two bodyguards supported Brother Hao, who fell on the ground, and held Brother Hao's chest tightly, but the blood that could not be restrained came out. "Brother Hao! Brother Hao!" The horses in the gunfight exclaimed loudly. Unexpectedly, some of the police officers who turned up and down had sharp marksmanship and hit Brother Hao in the chaos. At this time, Wu Xiao's face was pale, his pupils dilated, and he was completely dead. Two bodyguards dragged Wu Xiao downstairs, still wanting to take him to the hospital. However, when they came to the bottom of the building, dozens of plainclothes team members armed with firearms had gathered around the restaurant. One is a errand, the other is a thief. Riluo is never afraid of lameness. He sent someone to assassinate just to reduce the risk. It's done. Zhuang Shikai leaned on the screen, feeling relatively calm, and didn't feel too proud of killing Wu Xiao. Although Brother Hao used to be able to make a head start, time has passed, and Brother Hao, who limped a leg, is no longer a big shot. He and Luo Jie are brothers who rely on power to give orders, not to mention that he can't fight. Even if he can fight, he can't fight bullets. When he reached level 4, he obtained 4 attribute points, 2 of which were added to the action force and 2 points to the reaction force. The effect of reaction power can directly improve shooting skills. He can kill Lao Hao with a single shot in a crowd, but he does it normally. Boom boom boom. Zhuang Shikai shot again with 4 backhand shots, knocking down a few forward gunmen. Then he opened the magazine, poured the shell case on the ground with his backhand, took out 6 bullets from his pocket, and quickly pressed the bullets one by one into the magazine. Ding! The mission is completed. Kill Wu Xiao personally, gain 500 experience. Level experience is full, host level +1, attribute point +1. The current level of the host is LV5, with attribute point 1. Boom boom. The bullets of the Yukon gunners seemed to be all poured on the wooden screen, and most of the screen had been penetrated. Zhuang Shikai has moved his body several times, but he can't hide anymore, and he can't rush out. Now he can only grit his teeth. The system panel brought by the Superpower Watch has 5 attributes: Action Force, Reaction Force, Life Force, Vigorous Value and Inspiration Value. Each attribute is essentially to improve physical fitness and develop the human body's potential, but the focus is different, and the main effects produced are different. Action power is mainly to improve the skill, reaction power is mainly to improve marksmanship, vitality is mainly to improve the ability to resist hitting, vigor value and inspiration value are necessary attributes to stimulate certain superpowers. However, you need to complete the achievement goals of the system to unlock the superpowers. The achievement goal of the first stage is to become a district inspector. Regardless of the large or small jurisdictions, as long as you become an inspector, you can unlock a mysterious superpower. Of course, after each attribute is increased, in addition to directly improving the effect, there are some side effects. For example, improving mobility can also allow the host to be agile and move faster when firing. Increasing the reaction power can also make the host's reaction and dodge in a fight stronger. The system is set up very well and will not develop the host's body into a weird person. Zhuang Shikai gritted his teeth instead of fighting with dozens of gunmen with 6 bullets. Since he shot and killed Wu Xiao himself, now all the gunmen in Yukon have set fire on him, and there is only one dead end. So he decisively rushed to the window in front of him at the critical moment, jumped, broke the window with a bang, and jumped off the restaurant. Push the street. What is he doing? Lei Luo held the cigar in his mouth, quickly took it off with his hands, staring at the thrilling action of the curtain. Wow! Jumping off the building. Large shook his cheek, and quickly covered his eyes with his hands. This guy is really blessed. Luo Jie was about to fall into a puddle of mud just after he saw him. Of course, mud is just an adjective. If you fall off the 6th floor, you will die at 28, 20% can survive, and 80% will die. 20% of those who survived also had missing arms and legs, and there was no chance to get mixed up. Puff! Zhuang Shikai smashed his whole body on the top of the car at the entrance of the first floor. After smashing the roof over, he fell to the ground in 2 tumbling positions. At this time, an attribute point has been automatically added to the vitality, which greatly improved his physical fitness, especially the ability to resist hits and falls. Sure enough, according to Zhuang Shikai's guess, as long as he is injured in the action, or take the initiative to do anti-strike training. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com all belong to the way of adding points to his life. The attribute points will automatically complete the adding point process and add them to his vitality. However, Zhuang Shikai is not interested in this kind of lifelike pretense. If he weren't dying, he wouldn't be playing jumping off the building. Hiss, it hurts. Zhuang Shikai held his knees and took a breath. Then he moved his limbs, and miraculously found that none of his limbs were broken. It's just that there are some bruises on the face, multiple bruises and hematomas on the chest and legs. According to his assessment and calculation of several additions, the effect brought by a little bit of vitality can be enhanced. At most, he can guarantee that he will not die by jumping off the building. In the end, fractures are inevitable. It now seems that the roof unloading force has had an effect, turning serious injuries directly into minor injuries. Hi, this guy's body is really strong. Lai Luo saw Zhuang Shikai stand up again, tugging at the corner of his mouth, and lifted his cigar with surprise and joy. He became more interested in this young man. Lard Boy heard Luo brother's voice, put down his fat hand, and looked downstairs with his probe. Yes. This kid is so lucky. Brother Luo, this kind of work can always be unpredictable, but it is the appearance of a nobleman. The Lard Boy seemed to think of something. He smiled. You were like this back then. It's almost the same as the protagonist in the novel. Well, let's go downstairs. Lei Luo dang his cigar and turned to the rooftop exit. The Lard Boy beside him, the dozen bodyguards standing on the roof, all followed in Luo Ji's footsteps and walked towards the De Fu Hao restaurant. Boom boom. Several gunmen rushed out of the window and wanted to shoot downstairs, but the plainclothes policemen downstairs immediately raised their guns and fired back, killing all the gunmen. Actually, the people whom Lard thinks Brother Luo value is not a noble person, but will become a noble person. Zhuang Shikai looked at Wu Xiao's corpse on the ground, and he felt deeply in his heart, with mixed flavors. Don't look at Wu Xiao's reputation on Hong Kong Island, known as the Underground Emperor. But the underground mouse will never get on the table. All the police officers who participated in the operation were eating imperial food and using police guns. I heard that there is no fear at all to kill Wu Xiao, all of them regard it as an opportunity to get ahead. It is said that Lei Luo and Wu Xiao used to be brothers, and Wu Xiao saved Lei Luo's life. Only with Lei Luo's support can the Yukon Society be established, and it has developed into the current Hong Kong Island First Society. One of Wu Xiao's leg was lame to save Lei Luo. It can be said that he used one leg in exchange for a lifetime of wealth. However, in recent years, Wu Xiao has inserted eyeliner in the police station to win people's hearts and cheat on Lei Luo. The private relationship between the two is very delicate. There have been rumors in the police force that Lei Luo and Wu Xiao had a big quarrel, and the relationship was almost broken. Sure enough, Luo Ji directly killed the lame man. Without the slightest worry, hesitation. In fact, Hong Kong Island has already been undercurrents during this period. The police officers received news that Luo Ji was going to kill Wu Xiao, and they all showed a picture of what they knew, as expected. Unfortunately, Zhuang Shikai was not reborn in the years when Lei Luo was born. Now Lai Luo is the chief detective Hua, and Wu Xiao is already a gangster. Otherwise, he will personally experience a complete dark and evil era. Not only can he see Wu Xiao's beautiful days, but also can witness the joy of Lei Detective Chang's rise in the wind. Where is it like now? He can only witness the end of an era and join the last carnival. It's 1971 now, When the Independent Commission Against Corruption was established in 1974, the Dark Ages will end. But fortunately, if he was reborn more than 10 years earlier, Zhuang Shikai would definitely be a scammer for collecting black money. Now it coincides with the end of one era and the beginning of another era. Even if you make money, you won't make much money. Anyway, there are many ways to make money. How good is it to be a forward-thinking one? Although Li Daiheng has made a fortune now, he is the #1 police officer in Hong Kong in terms of business vision. Greedy? It will be funny when it is so greedy that it runs out of money. It is better to calculate the future carefully and prepare for the power vacuum that appeared after Lei Luo and others escaped. The first achievement goal of the system is to be an inspector, and maybe he will be a superintendent and a brother. The enhancement of attributes alone is enough. Zhuang Shikai has been greedy for superpowers for a long time, so he has to do a few more to pretend to be right. Hey? This is a good idea. First mix with a detective under Luo Ji's hands. At the end of the detective era, we will try to get a superintendent. After the return of 97, he will be the first Chinese police chief. Awesome! Zhuang Shikai helped the car door to stand up, temporarily closing the dream of being a director. Lei Luo walked closer in a suit, looked up and down, and asked, "Are you okay?" "Brother Luo, I'm okay." Zhuang Shikai nodded quickly when he saw that the boss was there. When he talked, he smiled and his nose and face were swollen, which was very pleasing. "It's okay." Lei Luo patted him on the shoulder, raised his hand and preached to a younger brother, "Send the man to the hospital." "Yes, Brother Luo." A plainclothes police officer responded immediately and wanted to help Zhuang Shikai get into the car, but Zhuang Shikai raised his hand to indicate that he could, and then limped into the car by himself. Lei Luo looked at his movements and smiled, but he didn't expect this little brother to be quite aggressive. Then he patted the lard boy on the shoulder, and the two walked into the Da Fu Hao restaurant together. I saw Luo Ji in a black suit and white shirt. The angular face revealed majesty, and there was a pair of iconic hooked noses under his eyebrows. The tall hooked nose seemed to be destiny, allowing Luo Ji to make a gesture of intimacy, and it was both majesty and elegance. A group of plainclothes policemen rushed to the restaurant to support them long before Lei Luo arrived. They would not embarrass the guests attending the birthday party, but they showed no mercy to the righteous gunmen who blocked them. The current situation on the 6th floor of the restaurant has long been brought under control. Lei Luo went upstairs just to appease the crowd, and by the way, he wanted to explain to the outside world that he did this thing. What's the problem with the police arresting criminals? Come to him if you have any questions. It turns out that Lei Luo is Huatsai, not right, it is Lu Tianwang. Zhuang Shikai sat in the car, not much interested in the process of subsequent incident handling, but recalled Lei Luo's appearance in his heart. Since Lei Luo dared to attack Wu Xiao on the rich, he must be safe in all aspects. Even based on the time when the support arrived, the plainclothes team had already been ready nearby. Even if their first batch of detectives failed, the subsequent police force could catch Wu Xiao to death. The central police station has secretly blocked the nearby roads and used almost all police force. Luo's style is to shoot and do his best. As for Lei Luo, he is a middle-aged man with a taller figure and a greasy head. Although there are some wrinkles in the corners of the eyes are bright and the whole person is very energetic. Especially the pair of hook noses. It doesn't look good on others. It grows on him but can outline a certain unique charm. Zhuang Shikai pondered it a bit, and felt that it was mainly a temperament problem. If he hadn't met Lei Luo at close range, it would be impossible to connect Lei Luo and Lu Tianwang even on the back or side face. Does this prove to the side what Lu Tianwang is like? Zhuang Shikai twitched the corners of his mouth, not knowing what to say. But, just because of the difference in temperament, you don't have to be afraid of bumping your face. In the future, if you meet other Lu Tianwang, you can tell who is who by just a glance. Reading www.uuganshu And he discovered that a movie has been remake, and if there are multiple people playing the same character, only the most classic character will appear. For example, there are several versions of Lei Luo, but they appear in the most classic image of Lu Tianwang, and the Liang Yingdi is a little bit aside. Wu Xiao looks exactly like Lu Lianggui. Obviously, Lu's image is more classic than Zhen's. Lard. He is an old guy who eats hard food. However, the lard boy and the shrewdness and cunning are hidden in the eyes, and Tai Hanin, who eats soft food and eats hard, are two people at all. In this case, multiple movie plots of the same character will be integrated with each other and run through the life of the same character. For example, Luo Ji's wife is called Bai Yui, and his father-in-law is Kowloon City de Laochia Baifanyu. For example, Luo Ji was hunted down in Kowloon City, and Wu Xiao led him out of the Kowloon walled city. In addition, Luo Ji also has an abalone inspector named Chen Zizhu, and the little wives of big people such as Lei Luo, Lin Gang, Lard Boy, etc., all stuffed them to Chen Zizhu. Inspector Abalone gets 2 sets of millions for every wife he marries. The living expenses that Lei Luo and others call him every month add up to more than 1 million. Hehe, this is not to help them raise, but directly to Chen Zizhu as his wife. Real name System Envy. Zhuang Shikai was sent to the mission hospital, where a nurse helped him apply medicine and clean up his wounds. It didn't take long for a few guys covered in blood to be taken to the hospital. Caige. You are still alive. Quan, it's so nice to see you. Hey? Brother Zhao, why is there a hole in your stomach? Zhuang Shikai leaned on the hospital bed with anti-inflammatory drips, yelling, making it clear that he could not stand up and talk. Zhuangzi, you charsu. After Cai Yuankai hugged the wound, he sat on the hospital bed and grinned, laugh at us. You don't give us a chance to fix you in the future. Cai Yuankai has a good relationship with Zhuang Shikai, so he dared to chat with Zhuang Shikai like this. However, the heavy atmosphere in the hospital ward was also diminished a lot by the bragging of the two. Zhuang Shikai chuckled, stopped taunting others, and began to observe the situation of the guys. He found that a total of 6 people had been sent to the hospital. Cai Yuankai and Zhou Jingchuan had skin injuries, and all of them had their wounds tied up. The remaining 2 are gunshot wounds and are being treated in the operating room. This kind of gunfighting situation often has more minor injuries than serious injuries. This is because once a police officer is shot in an exchange of fire, there will be more than 1 bullet. Therefore, those who survived after being shot are the real lucky ones. As for minor injuries, either the ability is super strong, or the style of play is super intimidating. Zhuang Shikai must be the one with super ability. Cai Yuankai, Zhou Jingchuan is not counseled, then I would like to ask the benevolent to see your benevolence. Zhou Jingchuan was covering his wound. The nurse was helping him apply medicine and preaching, Brother Kai, your marksmanship is also sharp. I saw you shooting with my own eyes, tisk tisk, shot dead through the crowd. The scene was so chaotic at the time, and there was a group of bodyguards beside him. How did you do it? Zhou Jing is all a uniformed policeman in Tsim Sha Sui. He is not tall, but he is shrewd in appearance, and his whole body reveals a sense of cleverness. Although they have been trained in the police academy on marksmanship, but wearing military uniforms for too long, basically no one is good at marksmanship. No one can play Zhuang Shikai's magic operation. It's a small thing, just hit a handgun. Zhuang Shikai waved his hand seemingly, his expression was not proud at all, and even made people feel very humble. Cai Yuankai and Zhou Jingchuan couldn't help but pull the corners of their mouths when they saw his expression. They didn't know if he was really humble, pretending to be coercive, or maybe driving. However, several people knew that Zhuang Shikai killed Lao Hao himself. He would definitely be favored by Luo Ji. Maybe, in the future, there will be a chance to stand in front of him, so let him pretend to pretend now. Who makes others strong? Zhuang Shikai picked up the water glass, took a sip of water, and finally asked, "How many of us are left among the buddies?" Zhou Jing sighed full length, his tone a little low. "There are only 6 of us left. There are 6 of the 20 people left. Is cruel." But Lame Hao had prepared well, and it seemed to be pretty good based on the situation at the time. "Okay. There are 6 hopes. Don't forget that there are 2 more undergoing surgery." Zhuang Shikai stopped talking a little bit, adjusting his mood secretly in his heart. Although the whole team of people are selected from various jurisdictions, most of them do not know each other. But everyone is brothers working together. Hearing the news of someone's death, I feel uncomfortable. Rabbit and Fox are sad, that's the case. However, the previous captain surnamed Zhang was the fastest to die, and he was really worthy of his IQ. Before departure, Zhuang Shikai actually only knew Cai Yuankai, Zhou Jingchuan still knew each other in action. Zhuang Shikai felt a bit familiar when he saw Zhou Jingchuan, but the other party was too young like him, his temperament was not fully revealed, and he couldn't remember who Zhou Jing was. To be sure, Zhou Jingchuan at least has a role identity. Is just not as famous as Lu Tianwang. Of course, there are more people with role identities. Now on the streets of Hong Kong Island, a criminal, an inspector, or a young and dangerous boy may have the identity. But, how about that? The movie world is no longer a movie, but a real world. Everyone has to be honest and do things honestly. Want the protagonist treatment? Then let's wash and sleep. Zhuang Shikai even looks familiar with Cai Yuankai, but he still can't remember which guy Cai Yuankai is. Speaking of which, he is also a Hong Kong movie enthusiast. It's just that Hong Kong movies are complicated and obsolete. Zhuang Shikai only remembers classic characters and movie kings from all walks of life. Other people? The protagonist is fine to say. Supporting role, just step aside. At this time, the lard boy had just gone to pay the settlement allowance and walked into the hospital ward with a briefcase. Zhuangzi, Yuankai, as well. He hadn't had a few meetings with the people in the room, but he called out the names of a few people as soon as he walked in. Brothers A. Brothers A. Zhuang Shikai and others did not dare to neglect, and quickly responded. The lard boy grabbed them before they got up, and quickly stopped them and motioned them to lie down and rest. Then opened the handbag with a smile, took out bundles of Hong Kong dollars from it, and sent them to the 4 people in the ward. Now the Hong Kong dollar denomination is very big, and it's so fancy. If you use all the thousands of Hong Kong dollars with a large face value, you can have 100,000, 200,000, or even more in one bundle. Cai Yuankai and others took a look, and they probably all knew what the amount was. Obviously, Zhuang Shikai would have more of that one. However, no one has any comments on this. Wu Xiao was shot and killed by Zhuang Shikai, and Zhuangzi must get some color. Brother Luo is not that kind of stingy person. Otherwise, who would help Luo Ji? Lard finally stood by Zhuang Shikai's bed, his cheeks trembled and said, "Hey, these are your labor fees, Brother Luo, you have to collect them. 100,000 yuan per person, Zhuangzi will be a little more, no problem, right?" "No problem, Brother Zi." Everyone quickly responded. 100,000 per person. To live is labor expenses. Hang up is the settlement fee. Lard is not like in the police and gangster movies, first pay the settlement allowance, and then let the buddy do the work. Instead, after finishing the work, send the money again. Is this a police feature? Zhuang Shikai knew that he had 200,000 in his hand, and the amount of lard in his mouth was doubled. With this sum of money, you can consider starting a small business. There is a big smell of disinfectant water in the hospital ward. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Lard didn't want to stay in the hospital for a long time, so he put the briefcase back under his arm again. Luo Ji has a banquet in the evening, and I specifically asked me to invite you. The four of you don't seem to lack arms or legs. I will send a car to pick you up at that time. Remember to be there. Zhuang Shikai, Cai Yuankai, and others shined. Thank you, brother, we must be there. It's a pity that the two who underwent the operation. No good fortune. The lord shook his head. In fact, this is a problem of good food, it is no luck. An opportunity to attend Luo Ji's dinner, which is so simple to eat. Can not only meet Luo Ji, but also get in touch with the big Chinese people on Hong Kong Island. The police, business, societies, squires. Any chance can change fate. Of course, the most likely opportunity for them is Luo Ji. Look at the bright eyes of some brats on the hospital bed, you know what they are thinking. Lard walked to the door of the ward, suddenly turned his head and preached, that's right. Remember to go to work in the plain clothes team in the Central District tomorrow. Thank you, brother, can we still forget about this? Cai Yuankai and Zhou Jingchuan were shameless, and they had already become licking dogs in their dreams of getting promoted and getting rich. Zhuang Shikai nodded calmly alone, as if he didn't regard fame and wealth as the past. Hey, what kind of expression is this brat? Lard muttered to himself, thinking of Zhuang Shikai all the way. Zhuang Shikai's alternative performance, on the contrary, left a deeper impression on the lard boy. Crossing off is not only forward-looking, but also forward-looking. Zhuang Shikai didn't even use half of his skills, and he had already produced a refined effect in the heart of the lard boy. Zhuang Shikai returned the glass to the servant and walked towards the second floor. Cai Yuankai and Zhou Jingchuan saw the scene where Lei Luo and Zhuang Psi greet each other, and they stayed in the front yard with interest, staying where they belonged. Just as Zhuang Shikai walked up the stairs, he saw the lard boy who was about to go downstairs. Lard was very happy to see him go upstairs, and put his arm around his shoulders and preached, Zhuangzi, you came just right, come upstairs with me. Brother Luo had already ordered you to go up to the second floor, but I didn't call you in advance when the meeting was just in session. Don't blame me. Lei Luo was chatting with people from the four major families on the second floor, and the lard boy wanted to accompany him. Brother Luo also went to the balcony to blow the air after he arranged things. You must know that after the death of Lame Hao, the entire white powder market in Hong Kong was vacated. In addition, the righteous group under Lao Hao is about to collapse, and a large number of sites in Central, Kowloon and the new territories will also be vacated. White powder, bars, dance halls, gambling stalls, all kinds of financial resources need to be taken over. Today's dinner is not to celebrate the killing of Lao Hao, but to study how to divide the cake. Since Brother Luo dared to deal with the Lame Hao, he was naturally well prepared. Everyone sat down to have a meal and chat, obviously it was almost done. Zhuang Shikai knows these things well, knowing that some things are polite on the surface, and when it comes to big interests, let alone intervene, he is not even qualified to stand by and listen to it. So he hurriedly said to the lard boy, brother, you are polite. Everyone is our own. Zhuang Shikai used the Tiosha dialect to say the last sentence. Lard smiled, and also preached in Tiosha dialect, my own person, my own person. Most of the brothers who work with Luo Ji are Chaozhou people. Lard is, Zhuang Shikai is, even Wu Xiao is. The second floor. Lobby. Zhuang Shikai was surprised to find that there were many people standing in the lobby, and they were not the same as downstairs. They drank wine downstairs and tea on the second floor. A total of 8 big guys sat beside the wooden chairs, all wearing cloth shirts, tapping the tea seat with their fingers. The other 8 big brothers are all standing behind each other with a confidant little brother, who should be the leader who accompanies the conversation. There are 16 people in total here, and there are 2 accompanying seats beside the main seat in the middle. One of the companion seats is a lard boy, and the other companion seat is a suit boy. When the lard pushed open the wooden door, everyone in the lobby glanced at them. Lard Boy leaned against Zhuang Shikai, and introduced in a low voice, Zhuangzi, the 4 people sitting on the left are the helms of the 4 major families, and the 4 people sitting on the right are the speakers of the 4 major societies. In the future, Laohao's white powder business will be taken over by the 4 major families, and the site shops will be divided by the 4 major societies. Wait and remember to say hello. Understood, Brother Zi. Zhuang Shikai nodded and found that the white powder business and the site were clearly divided. The business belongs to the business, and the site belongs to the site. This shows that the profit of the white powder business is enough to exceed the sum of the interests of casinos and protection fees. Regardless of the 4 major societies or the 4 major families, most of the people sitting on the table, Zhuang Shikai felt shameless. On the contrary, he was the confidant behind the 8 old guys, and Zhuang Shikai became more and more familiar with it. After inquiring, I learned that Ni-kun, Lin-kun, and Zhu Tao stood behind the 4 major families. Behind the 4 major societies stood Zhang Tiansheng, Lin Huail, Camel, and Lian Hailong. The 4 major families at the helm are called Agi, Asen, Shenga, Chaozhou Kanji. The 4 major societies are Dongxing, Hongxing, and Liansheng, and Loyalty. Now Dongxing boss is Big Nose Forest, and Street boss is Deng Tianbo, Hongxing boss is named Zhang Zhen, and Loyalty boss is named Wang Bao. Lard found Zhuang Shikai was watching, and explained it carefully. Zhuang Shikai needed a polite question, and quickly turned his gaze back, and followed the Lard to Luo Ji. Looking at this circle, he has gained a lot, and the biggest feeling is that his level is different. What Ni-kun, Lin-kun, Zhu Tao, Zhang Tianyang? Famous characters in the movie? It's just a junior. Is not their stage yet, but it is time for Zhuang Shikai to take the stage. This way, he is 1 generation higher than them. I don't know how cool it is. The advantages of being reborn in the 1970s have come out. However, compared with the new generations such as Zhang Tiansheng and Lin Huail, the older generation of characters on the scene rarely or even have no shots in the movie. Zhuang Shikai knows only 2 big brothers of the same generation. One is Deng Tianbo, who is fat and obese, holding a cane, and the other is Wang Bao, who is mighty and dignified and looks similar to his subordinates. Xin Yan, like Hongxing, should follow the rules of passing on from father to son. Lian Hailong should be Wang Bao's son, but I don't know why one surname is Wang and the other is a company, so it is likely to follow his mother's surname. Among the next generation of characters, there is only one that Zhuang Shikai does not know, and that is Ma Ziai behind Chaozhou Kanji. Zhuang Shikai looked at the looks and temperament of that Ma Ziai, and he felt like a soy sauce. Take the lead with sauce-colored goods? Teo Shug porridge is too unbranded compared to other big names. It's probably easy to hit the street. At this time, Lai Luo was walking back from the balcony. After Zhuang Shikai greeted him solemnly and said hello, Lai Luo waved his hand and preached, "Give up a chair like Zhuangzi, and everyone sit down and drink tea together." When the people present heard this sentence, their eyes looked different at Zhuang Shikai. Yu reading www.yunsha.com doesn't know how such a young man can gain Luo Ji's blue eyes. However, Luo Ji took the initiative to press his shoulder and preached, "Today's lame how was done by Zhuangzi. This young man is really powerful." Ha ha! Lei Luo laughed loudly and returned to his main seat to sit down. Zhuang Shikai has no expression on his face, but always smiles politely. The big guys present had ugly faces, and they didn't know what Lei Luo meant. Simply optimistic about a young man. Still take this to demonstrate to them? The idea of a big man is always difficult to guess. Only the Lard knows that it is both. Luo Ji really likes Zhuang Shikai. At this time, someone had added the seats and made a cup of hot tea and placed it next to the mahogany tea seat. After Zhuang Shikai sat down, Lei Luo took a sip of the tea cup, and the big men of Chaozhou porridge and Dabi Lin also took the tea cup to drink tea. Zhuang Shikai followed everyone to a toast and drank tea. The whole process was to hide his face, and he would not be ashamed of etiquette. But when putting down the teacup, Zhuang Shikai's eyes had an exchange with Chen Zizhu on the opposite side. Zhuang Shikai smiled at him, and he also smiled at Zhuang Shikai. The gazes of the two of them are closed at the touch of a touch, and they are all clicked until they stop. It is clear that Zhuang Shikai is just plain clothes, but as the inspector of Shaoqiwan district, Chen Zizhu, there is a feeling of counseling in his eyes. This is too much. I'm a good person. Why do you look at me with this look? Zhuang Shikai didn't want to accept this look. Because he is the kindest person on the scene. Why should Chen Zizhu look at him with such a look? Zhuang Shikai sat on the second floor for half an hour. Lei Luo drank tea and chatted, and officially introduced him to the big brothers of the four major families and the four major societies. Although it is just a casual introduction, it cannot bring practical benefits to Zhuang Shikai, but the bigwigs of the four major families and the four major societies will understand. He was the one who was favored by Luo Ji. As long as brother Luo doesn't fall, everyone will meet him outside in the future, and everyone will have to consider selling him some face. This is Luo Ji's love. Zhuang Shikai's performance was normal, and he didn't overgratulate or be marketable. He knows that strength is the most important in the world. Luo Ji's appreciation and support is just an opportunity. I can't hold it without strength. He had been sitting on the second floor for so long and he could understand some of the doorways. The reason why Luo Ji wanted to split the Yukon site into four big families, the four big dealers, was to avoid the second Yukon and Lihao appear. This is deliberately creating competition for each society, limiting the strength of each society, and ensuring a balance between black and white. Half an hour later, the club leaders left the villa on the top of the mountain. Luo Ji led the team down to the second floor, and began to greet the guests to dance in the ballroom on the first floor. A piano is placed in the upper left corner, and the pianist in a white suit is in charge of playing dance music for the guests. Some people take their female companions to dance on the dance floor. More people are watching and chatting on the dance floor. The club leaders are not interested in dancing, and most of them leave after discussing business affairs. However, many ghost superintendents, district inspectors, or Shazhan attended the dinner. They all took their families and partners. If they are there, don't worry about no one on stage. Cai Yuankai and Zhou Jingchuan came to this kind of venue for the first time. They didn't know how to dance at all, so they could only stand by and stare blankly. Zhuang Shikai studied ballroom dancing when he was in college, but he was not interested in showing up on such occasions. After politely rejecting the invitation of a few beautiful girls, he walked back and forth with Luo Ji in the ballroom. Do not misunderstand. It is not that he wants to follow Luo Ji, but Luo Ji insists on pulling him. I saw Lei Luo holding a wine glass in his hand. Every time he met a guest who said hello, he had to introduce Zhuang Shikai to the guest. This is Zhuangzi, it's good to drink. Come on, I will let Zhuangzi have a drink with you. At first, Zhuang Shikai was still wondering why Luo Ji even took him with him for drinking. Only then did I understand that, yuck, it was just to keep him out of alcohol. But blocking the wine is blocking the bar. Zhuang Shikai uses attribute points to improve his physical fitness, and the side also improves the volume of alcohol a lot. There is still a little distance from being drunk with 1,000 cups, but even drinking 999 cups is not a problem. So he drank it whenever he met, and after a while, he drank a half circle of people in the dance hall. For the remaining half of the circle, they are not qualified to drink with him, no, they are not qualified to drink with Luo Ji. Lei Luo patted Zhuang Shikai on the shoulder and praised, Zhuangzi, you really can drink. Hey! Brother Luo won the prize. Zhuang Shikai held the wine glass, his face was a little red, but his consciousness was very clear. Lei Luo suddenly asked, I heard that your family used to live in Dongta village, Kowloon. Correct. In 1951, there was a big fire in Dongta village. My parents died in that disaster. I was only 2 years old. The priest of the church saved me. This memory of Zhuang Shikai comes from his predecessor, but there is no picture in the memory, only the tone of the priest talking to him. He was so young that year, no matter how big a disaster he encountered, he couldn't remember the scene in his head. Even the priest who adopted him has passed away. It's not easy for the predecessor to survive. It's really inspirational to go to the back to study and test the police academy, and finally become a policeman. Zhuang Shikai even suspects that there is no real predecessor at all. Those memories and surrounding environment are all the background preset for him by the system. Since there is a background, let's use it, so as not to be found out. Of course, the original Zhuang Shikai was a religious believer, but now he is not religious at all. But like the previous Zhuang Shikai, he donates a little money to the church's orphanage every month. To say that a human touch is to repay a gratitude, and to be realistic is to pay for an identity. It's no big deal to donate some money every 3 months. Lei Luo stood by and nodded in surprise. Oh! My hometown is also in Dongta village. Lei Luo's words are over, leading Zhuang Shikai to the direction of the lard boy. Zhuang Shikai suddenly realized, and suddenly understood why Lei Luo was so close to him. Let me just say it. Although my performance is very good, Luo Ji has more than just admiration for me. Is so close. I also think that it is an additional effect brought by the appearance. 2 people are handsome and handsome at each other. It turns out that the 2 people are not only fellows from their ancestors, but they are also in the same village on Hong Kong Island. You need to know that the fire in Tung Tao village, Kowloon, burned more than 500 houses and more than 20,000 victims. Hong Kong Island in the 1950s was a big event. There is such a reason. Brother Luo will definitely take care of him more. After careful consideration, Zhuang Shikai remembered that Lei Luo's family was not only affected by the disaster, and it seemed that even the first lover and his family had died. Then Lei Luo met Baifanyu's daughter in the ballroom. It's just that the first lover seemed to be brought back to the mainland by relatives ahead of time. There should be no accident, or she and Luo Ji still have a chance to see each other for 2 years. As for Luo Ji to rely on his father-in-law, this is not shameless at all, and even enviable. After all, you have no power and no power, so why do you have a superior position? For the underdog, it is already an opportunity to realize his beauty. And this is not about eating softly, but just using talents and appearance, proper qualities of a great hero. Li Daiheng, who lives next door to Luo Ji, seems to have started his career by his appearance. Zhuang Shikai touched his face. Hiss! This life is complete. Thin 9. It seems that in addition to the abalone inspector, Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com, Luo Ji will have an additional wine inspector next to him. Lard touched Chen Zizhu with his elbow, talking and toasting. Watching Lei Luo and Zhuang Shikai walking without squint. Chen Zizhu smiled plainly, and did not answer the words of the lard boy. He raised his glass and shouted, "Brother Luo! Brother Luo!" Whether it is lard boy or Chen Zizhu, he knows that Zhuang Shikai has been in the eyes of Luo Ji. Next, as long as his performance goes well, he can help Luo Ji solve the trouble. There is no problem in holding the position of an inspector in a jurisdiction. Chen Zizhu used to be such a person, but he was helping Luo Ji to solve personal affairs, and Zhuang Shikai was able to help Luo Ji to solve business matters. It is self-evident that the two were better. Lard Boy and Chen Zizhu greeted Zhuang Shikai after saying hello to Luo Ji. Of course, Zhuang Shikai was very polite, and he quickly raised his glass and shouted, "Brother Zai! Brother Xiju!" Needless to say Lard, but Chen Zizhu must not be underestimated. Not to mention that Chen Zizhu's current status is much higher than him. The personal connections that Chen Zizhu has accumulated over the years have made others dare not touch him easily. Hehe, although Chen Zizhu is not a person who relies on hard power, his soft power can be very powerful. To hit him in the face is equivalent to hitting Luo Ji, hitting Lin Gang, and hitting Han Sen in the face. Yan Tong is not included here, because Yan Tong and Luo Ji have always been at a loss. Zhuangzi, what are your plans for getting 200,000 yuan? Pighead said hello, smiled and asked. He was ready to send benefits to Zhuang Shikai. If you are going to buy a property, I have a good introduction, and the market price is 30% off. If you plan to make money, I will help you use it for loan sharking, so that you can make a steady profit without losing it. The Lord said that he will not lose money, it really means that he will make money without losing money. If you lose, Brother Zi can pay for Zhuang Shikai to make money. After all, Brother Zi has the greatest face, and hundreds of thousands are really not in his eyes. He said that he actually wanted to sell Zhuang Shikai. This is also the style of the lard boy. However, Zhuang Shikai had his idea, holding the wine glass and politely declined, "Thank you, brother, I want to use the money to open a store and start a small business by myself." Do you still do business? Lard boy felt a little surprised. He looked at Zhuang Shikai again and Nunu said, "Tell me." Lard himself is a small vendor and has always been interested in business matters. It's just that he has a general business mind, and he started his career more by being shrewd in dealing with people. Lei Luo and Chen Zizhu also looked at him, wondering what store Zhuang Shikai was planning to open. "I just want to open a clothing store. Small business." Zhuang Shikai laughed and said what was in his heart. For people in their circle, it is not forbidden and very embarrassing to go off the court in person. If Zhuang Shikai said to open a bar, or open a dance hall, it would be very low level. Isn't it good to sit in a position and collect money? Why do you dirty your hands? As for the positive business, small business has no money to make, but big business requires professional skills and strong capital. Inspectors such as Luo Ji, Lin Gang, etc. are just fine buying a building to collect rent, and would never put money in to risk it. Zhuang Shikai said that he was going to open a clothing store, and the lard boy immediately felt disinterested. Ugh! What kind of clothing store should I open? The rent is expensive, and the source of goods is not easy to find. The money earned in 1 month is not as much as you can allocate. Not only the lard boy thought it was boring, but even Lei Luo and Chen Zizhu had smiles on their faces, feeling that Zhuang Shikai was too petty. Because after Zhuang Shikai was transferred to the plain clothes team, he could get at least more than 2,000 yuan each month. The income of Hong Kong Islanders is generally not rich, and their wages are only a few hundred yuan a month. There are even fewer people who have money to buy clothes. A piece of clothing is only sold for a dozen yuan, and there are very few clothing stores whose net profit can reach 2,000. Zhuang Shikai gave 200,000 yuan to the lard boy in loan sharks, earning more than this. Lai Luo and Chen Zizhu are already figures standing at the top of society. They really look down on the money, let alone do this kind of small business. But Zhuang Shikai's next words surprised them very much. "Brother Zai, I don't sell clothes. Sell brand name bags." Zhuang Shikai looked at the big men in front of him, and took the initiative to tell his plan. The rich people on Hong Kong Island now like to buy brand name bags from magazines. What LV, Chanel, a bag of tens of thousands of dollars, selling these bags is very profitable. Lard chuckles, famous brand bags are foreign goods, all of which are operated by foreigners. How can you afford to open a store with 200,000 yuan? Hey! Zhuang Shikai explained, fake goods, that is, goods A. I plan to make a cargo bag. Now Hong Kong Island A cargo bags are still a blank area, that is, the blue ocean market waiting to make money. The main reason is that the economy of Hong Kong Island has not been developed very long, and the title of Four Little Dragons in Asia has not been awarded for long. Hong Kong Islanders are generally not wealthy, and the habit of buying packages in the upper class is also very small. Compared to buying foreign brand bags, buying gold chains, gold bracelets are more in line with the current style. There are many gold shops on Hong Kong Island, and there are more than one jewelry shops, and their business is very hot. However, with the recent advertising efforts of foreign brands and the fact that ghost ladies bring goods, the luxury goods industry has gradually opened up the Hong Kong Island market. All major brands are opening stores on Hong Kong Island. But the most customers are still ghosts. No way, real bags are too expensive, most people can't afford them, and a small part cannot become a trend. But do you want to outflank it into a? The price is tens of thousands, hundreds of dollars are sold directly on the shelf. There is no such thing as no customers. At that time, it will be able to open up the market for the wealthy, and on the other hand, it will also open up the market for female students, office workers, and Miss Malin. Even if the real high-class society still buys genuine copies, it's his shit. He doesn't make any money from this group of people at all. As long as you use goods A to grasp the citizen class, you can make a fortune. When Zhuang Shikai was patrolling the street, he deliberately inspected the market, knowing that it is difficult to sell A goods or not to make a profit. Lard Boy heard that Zhuang Shikai wanted to sell fakes. He didn't care at first, but after listening to Zhuang Shikai's detailed explanation, his expression became very exciting. He put down the wine glass, clapped his hands and shouted, "Good talk! Good talk! Zhuangzi, do you want us to do it together?" Zhuang Shikai certainly doesn't mind, "Brother, if you are interested, you can do it together. Brother Luo, Brother Zizhu, you can also be together if you believe me." At the beginning, he just said casually. Later, he analyzed the market of goods A in detail. In fact, he wanted to sell them. After all, for Zhuang Shikai there are too many opportunities to make money, the key is whether he has power, and keeps these markets. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. A little profit is not only not a loss, but also a big profit. After Zhuang Shikai invited Luo Ji out loud, Lard Boy did not speak first. Unless Luo Ji expresses his interest, he can't vote more than Luo Ji, so Luo Ji must take the lead. Brother Luo thought for a while, and immediately said, "There is a 300-person clothing factory in the new territories for you, count me." Chen Zizhu continued, "I have a shop in Tongkai Street, Zhuangzi, I will take it out for you." These two people are both generous. Lard thought for a while and said, "I will give you Tung Choi Street. From now on, only your family in Tung Choi Street can sell fakes." Lei Luo glared at the Lard Boy, "Is this a gift from you? This kind of doesn't need to be said at all. There is a business in which Luo Ji participates, and only this one can do it in Hong Kong." A thief smiled on the face of the Lard Boy, "That's no way, I will invest 1 million in shares." "Thank you Brother Luo, Brother Zizhu, thank you Brother Zi." Zhuang Shikai toasted and met with the three of them, and asked Luo Ji tentatively, "Brother Luo, you can set a share." "Me, Zizhu, Lard, 20% alone." Luo Ji took a sip and continued, "You account for 40% alone. Everyone is okay?" Chen Zizhu and Lard Boy all nodded, "No problem." Although Zhuang Shikai paid the least money, since the attention was paid out by Zhuang Shikai, they would not turn to the guest. Isn't that cutting the younger brother's meat? What's more, people like Lei Luo, Lard Boys and others just think that goods A can make money, but they don't know how much money they can make. So everyone is moderate on the shares, and one person is 20%, no more, no less, just right.